Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer for those of you watching, listening, whether you're listening live or you're listening to the replay, unless you're listening after Friday. We are about to talk about spoilers from this coming Friday's SmackDown. It was taped this past Friday. I feel like we cannot talk about this pay-per-view without talking about those spoilers. Normally, I wouldn't do that. I hate spoilers, stupid internet, ruining that for all of us. I would like to be surprised and entertained, but we have to talk about the spoilers because there's a 6-man tag match made for Crown Jewel, Roman Reigns and the Usos taking on the Bloodline. Now, I show you this graphic. Andy, it is not official. The Bloodline representatives have not been named yet. I assume it won't be Jacob Fatu. I assume it'll be the Tongans and Solo. Jacob probably has his travel issues that he can't get out. But let's talk about, Andy, the way that we got here. We just mentioned the Motor City Machine Guns winning the championships thanks to Jimmy and Jey Uso, who were totally separate. And then at the end of the night, because the Bloodline costed Jey the championship on Monday Night Raw, we see the reunion of Jimmy and Jey, a moment that we've all been clamoring for. But Andy, one man was not so sure what to think about his boys calling the plays and not him. But what a moment it was at the end of SmackDown, Andy.
Yeah, like you said, it's a moment we've been waiting for since, Jey officially left and was feuding with Jimmy and everything else. Like it's a moment we've been waiting for a minute. Honestly, this is happening a lot faster than I anticipated it to.
Me too.
Like I thought that moment was going to come a couple of weeks from now. However, we are starting to get some more wrinkles into it from things that happened tonight on Monday, on Raw, and things that are going to happen Friday, I'm sure as well.
Yep.
But it's a moment that is something we've been waiting for. I'm excited that they're back together. I hope they're not back together full time. I hope they're not back together as a tag team right away. Because I'm enjoying this Jey Uso singles run. I think he is doing a fantastic job. I think he can still do that, and just kind of fall back and forth. I'm very curious though to see what happens in this match at Crown Jewel, because I don't know where they're going to go.
How awesome is the sheer thought of Motor City Machine Guns against the Usos? Maybe the ladder match, maybe a TLC, but I mean, they would absolutely blow the roof off the place. Can I talk about Sami Zayn? Are we there yet?
Let's talk about Sami Zayn, because we saw it tonight. And before we get to the spoilers of Friday night, we saw tonight Jimmy and Jey promo beginning of Monday Night Raw. Jey is not sure. He's a different man. Like Andy said, he's had single success. He doesn't want to lose that. He doesn't want to be anybody's number 2 anymore. And then, Jared, they run into Sami Zayn backstage, and some things happen that we're not quite sure about.
See, I thought they were a little bit hard on the old Sami Zayn whenever that they said, you don't understand because you're not family. And so just like we're talking about, how this is all coming together, and I do agree that it's being force-fed a little bit. They could have taken more time if they had the time to spare before Survivor Series. So maybe Triple H should have thought ahead a little bit better and had this planned out. But I think that one of the big wrinkles that we may get to see is how are we going to get Sami Zayn back in the fold? Because they have just pissed poor Sami off. So now, I mean, what are they going to have to do to bring him back in?
Yeah, I don't know. They said he's not family. Of course, Jey was the one that it took forever to warm up to Sami, and Jey immediately is the first one that says he's not family, and then Jimmy's like, well, no, he's not. But
Jimmy didn't even want to talk to Jimmy.
Right.
He said, can I talk to you alone?
Yeah.
Jey.
And then when Jimmy and Jey are leaving, Andy spots Sami talking to Solo in the parking lot. I don't know what to make of this.
That's the wrinkle that I was not expecting.
Yes.
That's why I think they showed us the Usos getting back together so early, is because now the focus is going to be back on Sami somewhat. Because I think we all can kind of agree, the high point of the Bloodline was when Sami Zayn was a part of the Bloodline.
Yes.
Every week it was the best moments when Sami was a part of the Bloodline. So when they go back and finally convince him to join them in their War Games match, because I'm like 99% sure that's where we're headed.
Yes.
Right.
He needs to feel a little oozy again, and they need to help him.
I really hope like they go the route. And we talked about you guys were talking about it with Gargano and Ciampa, like that happening at WrestleMania. We could have two best friends going at each other, because I think that literally enters them into a Sami Zayn Kevin Owens feud going into WrestleMania, and it makes it full circle, like for the entire Bloodline story, whatever the Roman Rock situation is going to look like.
Yep.
Do Kevin and Sami at the same time. You can do all these other things, and it's a full circle WrestleMania.
I knew it.
The card, if you're going to have DIY on there against each other, the implosion of DIY, and then on the same card to have Sami versus KO again. Woo! I mean, I feel a little oozy myself on that one.
And then we'll get to this in just a minute. You top that off with Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. If that were to happen, all three of those on the same WrestleMania, oh my gosh, look out.
Somebody explain to me why are we so excited about this match? Like, I'm one of those people that I think Randy Orton is awesome, but he almost nowhere near the Miz. But it's almost like you just don't want to watch what he's doing. For me, maybe just because I've watched him for so long and he's flipped back and forth, heel face, but like, I'm just not excited about that match like everybody else seems to be.
Well, let's hold that thought, because we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And maybe, just maybe, we can sell you on it. Just maybe. Just hold that thought for a second. Also, Johnny, I see your comment in the YouTube chat. I will get to that in just a second. I got one more point here I want to make, because, again, the internet spoiled what is happening this coming Friday on SmackDown. So again, I pushed the graphic. I'll throw it up again. Roman and the Usos against the Bloodline is supposedly confirmed for Crown Jewel. Of course, we haven't seen a graphic because the show hasn't aired. But of course, a huge moment happened in the taped version of SmackDown that's coming out this Friday ahead of Crown Jewel. And that is Roman Reigns officially confirming the reunion between Jimmy, Jey, and Roman, the original Bloodline, to make this match possible. I hate the internet. I wish, Andy, is there not a way they could have left this match off of Crown Jewel? Because, again, if we're pushing towards Bloodline versus Bloodline in War Games, why are you giving us this at Crown Jewel? Could you not have held this off to the live SmackDown, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, and then we don't get any kind of interaction until Survivor Series? Why tape this?
Yeah, I am not a fan of this happening on a taped version of SmackDown. Honestly, why not do this at Crown Jewel?
Yes.
Have a moment where you're going to have a Roman Reigns address the WWE Universe at Crown Jewel, and you have Jey Uso and Jimmy come out there, and you have this moment, maybe, Solo and Jacob and Tama Tonga or whoever comes out there and interrupts them, and then they start brawling, and then you have somebody come out there and just be like, you know what? Let's have a 6-man tag right now and just have them go at it. Like, I think that's so much better than a taped version of this where it gets, exposed. We talked about it. This is the go home moment that you want.
Yes.
So this is the moment that Triple H is booking for. But why are you doing it on a taped go home? Why are you not doing it, live? Why are you not doing it in person? That's the thing that is very frustrating.
I mean, agreed is all I can say. I agree with every bit of that. Again, it shows that Triple H is booking ahead, but this is another one of those things that we're going to criticize, just like we used to whenever Vinnie Mac was in charge. He should have planned more for Survivor Series so everything cannot be rushed.
Right.
And he also should think about not spoiling these moments that, regardless, he knows we're going to see before it happens, and it's like, oh.
Yep.
I really wanted to see that live and not know it was coming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, too, when we watch it this Friday, I think the crowd reaction will obviously help us as viewers, and we'll feel a little bit better about it. But the fact that we know it's coming is just a little unfortunate. One thing, Jared, that I want to get to real quick before we get our prediction for this 6-man tag match, and then we move on through the rest of Crown Jewel. We got a lot to talk about. One thing I want to say is I want to talk about Solo Sikoa for just a minute. Now, a lot of people are not happy with Solo Sikoa and his place as the tribal chief. A lot of people, including some people on this podcast, Andy, have said that
I'm not mentioning any names.
That Jacob Fatu is just totally outshining Solo. Solo is not what he used to be, and he's not great, and blah, 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 blah. Hear me out. Solo Sikoa has spearheaded taking the Bloodline from a cool Bloodline group to, Jared, one that we can actually boo, and they can truly be heels, and we can prop up the baby faces even more. So if we're upset that Solo is not been as good as he's supposed to be, well, Jared, isn't that the point? He's an imposter Roman Reigns. He's an imposter tribal chief. So hasn't he done? I'm just saying, give the man his flowers. I think he's done a really good job in this role.
Well, just look at that picture that you have put up there. Look at the colors. It reminds me of NWO Wolfpack, just like a complete knockoff of the original black and white NWO. I mean, I never liked the Wolfpack, and I think this is exactly what we're seeing. I do think that Solo has done his role very well, but the problem is coming out of this, I don't think Solo is going to be the one that is going to be kind of pushed farther on up the card. Like, once this is over, and it's going to be over soon, I think, with Solo, then I think that Jacob's going to step up. And again, I mention this just because I like hearing what other people who don't have a background in wrestling think. And my wife looked at me and she said, why is that guy in charge? The tribal chief. Why him? Why not that crazy looking guy? Jacob. And I was like, that is a very good question. And I would love to be able to answer that for you. But I think that's what we're building towards, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that Solo has done his job of making the Bloodline something that we all can hate. Mm-hmm. However, you're going up against Roman Reigns, and you want somebody who's in charge of the Bloodline to feel like an actual threat to Roman Reigns. And Solo does not feel like a threat.
That's the problem.
Solo feels like the little brother who's just trying to be cool and is going to get murdered at some point by Roman.
Destroyed.
Whereas Jacob Fatu in that role, I think he can still make it to where you boo them. Like, I think he has that capability. Obviously, people are going to like Jacob, but if you start doing these things with Solo and with, you let Tongaloa loose on everybody, then the Bloodline's really going to get hated. Then you can keep going forward. But my thing with Solo is he is not a credible threat. If this would have happened after he squashed John Cena, then I think we're talking. Then I think we're moving forward. But since that point on, he has done absolutely nothing. And it's no fault of Solo. Like, I think Solo is doing a fantastic job with what he's been given. I just don't think they built his character up enough to be a credible tribal chief, which is why I still think he's not the tribal chief. I think he's just there in the place of The Rock. And maybe then we get the struggle between those two, and then he gets kicked out, and then he goes back to the original Bloodline, and we go from there. I don't see him as a threat to Roman Reigns.
What cracks me up about this whole thing is if you go back in time and you remember Solo Sikoa saying, wins and losses, they matter, right?
Yeah.
And now look at him. He has lost every single match he's been in, and he's still out there telling people to acknowledge him. Acknowledge him as what? A huge and colossal failure? I mean, it's not working.
I just think he's doing his job as a heel, guys. I think he
is. But how is he going to come out of this looking good? I just don't think that's possible.
I think as a heel, he's doing good. I don't think the point is for him to come out and look like $1 million. I think the point is for us to sit here and have this conversation of he's not a threat to Roman Reigns. There's no way. Jacob Fatu should be the guy. He completely overshadows Solo. Jacob's going to kill him. I think we're supposed to be having this conversation. I think they're doing their job. Maybe that's me being a WWE shill. I don't know. But that's what I think.
I mean, that's all I watch right now is WWE, and I have no intention on watching anything else. But I think that the point that I'm trying to argue is there was a time whenever that Solo, everybody had high hopes for.
Yes.
And after this was over, even in defeat, Solo could have come out still being a monster, kind of looking like Umaga or something. And now I think once this is done, he's on the shelf. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they dropped the ball on what he could have been, even though he was going to lose probably from the beginning.
Very interesting. All right, real quick before we move on, still a lot of stuff to get to. A lot of people in the chat, a lot of people watching. Thank you so much for doing that. Drop your comments, drop your questions, vote in the poll. We would appreciate that so very much. And more importantly than all of that, as much as we love your interaction, hit that subscribe button on the channel. That helps us so much. It doesn't cost you a thing. All right, prediction for this match. 6-man tag, Bloodline versus Roman Reigns and the Uso. Andy, go first. Who takes the win in this one?
Well, after everything I just said, I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little bit because I think Solo does get the win here. But I don't think he pins Roman. I think Jey is in this match to eat the pin. And so I think that's going to cause more tension between Jey and Roman going forward. But I do think if you want this War Games match at Survivor Series to feel important, at some point the other bloodline has to get a win over the OG bloodline, and I think it can happen here because I don't think people are going to remember this match in 2 months from now. So I honestly think this is a good spot for Solo to get the win. I'm not going to be shocked if Rock doesn't come out and get involved or do something. I think there's a really good chance because that Saudi money speaks, and he would very easily make that flight out there, and I could see him getting involved. But I do think the new bloodline does win.
Unfortunately, yeah. I agree with Andy. I think that the only way out of this is for the new bloodline to win. And I do think it would be great, like Andy was saying, if he does, he being Solo, pronouns pal, if he does pin Jey Uso. I mean, now they feel like they're more kind of on the same level-ish. Jey still feels like a bigger deal than him. But if you could get a feud with them going and then go ahead and bring The Rock or somebody else back in against Roman, I think that would make a lot more sense, but Solo does not need to be against Roman.
I agree. That's why I think we are going to fantasy book WrestleMania, if not next week, the week after, before we get too deep into this, because I want to hear how everybody would get to where we're getting to before we reveal anything or what have you. So we need to do that very quickly. Having said that, we're going 3 for 3 here. I think the new bloodline gets the win, because if not, what's the point in continuing the story? So I think they could do it if the OG bloodline wins, find a way to do it. Maybe a beat down after the match and they leave them laying or whatever. But I think the new bloodline gets the dub here. All right. Again, appreciate you guys being with us on our YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, interact with us, drop your comments, your questions. We would appreciate that so very much.